Hello, and thanks for joining us for this presentation today titled The Fractional Billionaire Project, Fort McWorry. Now, of course, actually, this is a presentation that addresses folks in Fort McMurray, which is the oil sands hub of activity in Alberta, Canada. And it's been called different names. There was a time it was called Fort McMoney because a lot of money was sloshing around. But in recent times, with the collapse in the price of oil, things have changed. There are layoffs, and even those who still have jobs are looking over their shoulders because every day the oil companies continue to look for ways to cut costs, which inevitably sometimes means laying off employees or contractors or suppliers, as the case may be. So definitely there's a lot of worry going on. But before we go into the specifics of Fort McMurray, let's talk a little bit about the Fractional Billionaire Project. There is a video we have on our YouTube channel titled, the channel is named MCWS Presentations. And it's one of these videos is titled How to Join the Fractional Billionaire Project, just in case you want to find out more. And there are other videos on that channel too. Watching them would shed more light and open your mind to what we are trying to do and how you can benefit. But I want to call your attention to this document. It's from a website. It's managed by someone named Professor G. Willem Domhoff. He's a professor emeritus. He's been a professor for about 50 years now. So I guess he's kind of semi-retired, but he's studied all these power structures and all that. And so this article is from that website. And this article was written by an investment manager who works with very wealthy clients. But I guess before we look into that article, let's look at another article. This was from the Newsweek back in 2012. And it was written by David Frum, who used to be George W. Bush's press secretary at some point. Speechwriter at some point. Anyway, the area I want to look at is on page 11 of this document, and it's what he calls the ordinary rich. So let's see what he has to say about it. Obviously, it's better to be rich than poor, yet times are desperately uneasy, even among the maids and gardeners set. And then he goes on to talk about how the trend toward economic oligarchy is every bit as visible inside the top 1% as it is in the nation as a whole. The top 1% of the top 1%, that's the top 0.01%, they are pulling away from the rest of the top 1% that he calls the merely ordinarily rich, even faster than the top 1% can pull away from American society as a whole. In the single year 2010, the top 1% scored an 11.6% increase in their earnings. Nice. But the top 1% of the top 1% got 21.5%, twice as much. So, it goes on to say here that here is why. Ordinary rich people don't have access to ultra sophisticated investment vehicles. They save as middle class savers do in real estate, stocks, and bonds. Do you see your picture in that statement? Is that what you do? And since 1999, saving has paid poorly. Adjusting for inflation, the S&P 500 index still has not returned to its level of the year 2000. So small investors, and mind you, in modern finance, somebody with only $1 million or even $10 million counts as a small investor. These people have seen themselves gouged and abused by a financial industry where everything from LIBOR to Facebook seems rigged. It's been generous. It's not that it seems, it is rigged in favor of an insider feel. So you can read that article in all if you have the time. So that was just to put some context to why there is this fractional billionaire project. Why are we so worried about doing things the way the billionaires do it? Because that is the only way you can get the best value for your money. Now, it's up to you. You certainly reserve the right to continue to do what everybody else is doing. Play by the rules. Do what the banks tell you to do, or your financial planner, or the financial services industry. That's a choice you can make. But we know enough to know that the banks do not necessarily have your best interests at heart. And you can debate in your mind whether we have your best interests at heart. That's a fair question, and we will do our best to address that. But we are sure that the banks don't. So if you look at this article in Wikipedia on market timing, and this is Wikipedia, so let's look at it. It talks about how the 2008 decline in the market was instructive. While many retail brokers were instructed by their brokerages to tell their clients, the retail clients, these are not poor people by any standards. The average retail client also may have assets in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions. But these people were told not to sell, but instead to look to the long term. The market makers at those same brokerages were busy selling to cash. They were selling, but they were telling the retail clients not to sell. So they were doing that to avoid losses for the brokerage's large institutional clients. The result was that the retail clients were left with huge losses, while the institutions fled to the safety of short-term bonds and money market funds, thereby avoiding similar losses. That's just a tiny example to show you that Wall Street and all the various conduits through which they collect your money, your financial planners, the banks, mutual funds, ETFs, and so on, do not care for you unless you are a large player. So, anyway, we'll get back to that later. Another thing that is important to mention in this fractional billionaire project is the fact that, okay, let's go back to that article on Who Rules America. So I'm going to just go to some section in page 2. Here in red highlight, it talks about how, unlike those in the lower half of the top 1%, and mind you, this article is talking just about the people in the top 1%, not even about the other 99%. So maybe you fall into that top 1%, whether in Canada or in the United States, well, good for you. But it's talking about that top 1% and talking about how bad it is for those in the lower half or the bottom of that top 1% and how good it is for those at the very top of that top 1%. So unlike those in the lower half of the top 1%, those in the top half, and particularly the top 0.1%, can often borrow for almost nothing. So they can get loans at rates of 0.5%, 0.25%, 0.75%. They can keep their profits and production overseas. In other words, they can make $100 million, but through different loopholes, they'll say, well, the money wasn't made in the United States, wasn't made in Canada, it was made overseas. And so they don't owe any taxes until they bring the money back to the United States or Canada or wherever. But any money you make in your small business or as a salary earner gets taxed immediately. These people can hold personal assets in tax havens, ride out down markets and economies, and influence legislation in the US or in Canada or anywhere. They have access to the very best in accounting firms, tax and other attorneys, numerous consultants, private wealth managers, a network of other wealthy and powerful friends, lucrative business opportunities, which is why you want to join this Fractional Billionaire Project, because you can also get access to this same kind of opportunities and many other benefits. Most of those in the bottom half of the top 1%, which that means also those in the bottom 99% as well, they lack power and global flexibility, and they are essentially well compensated workhorses for the top 0.5%, just like the bottom 99%. In my view, the American dream of striking it rich is merely a well-marketed fantasy that keeps the bottom 99.5% hoping for better and prevents social and political instability. The odds of getting into that top 0.5% are very slim, and the door is kept firmly shut by those within it. So that's the other thing that is important to mention, that they don't want you to come in. They don't want you to do what they are doing. Because if you also come in and do what they are doing, two problems. You will no longer be paying their taxes, and you'll be sharing the profits that they are sharing. They would rather fewer people share the benefits they get and get get everybody else to pay their taxes, pay their bills. So the other paragraph that I wanted to highlight as well is this one. A highly complex set of laws and exemptions from laws. So the laws that collect taxes from 99.5 or 99.8% and exemptions from those same laws for the top 0.01%. This kind of complex laws and exemptions have been put in place by those in the uppermost reaches of the US financial system. It allows them to protect and increase their wealth and significantly affect the US. And you can add Canada, UK, or any other country to that. The political and legislative processes, they have real power and real wealth. Ordinary citizens in the bottom 99.9% are largely not aware of this system. So that's why when we talk about this Fractional Billionaire Project, you might be asking, so what is that? What exactly does it mean? Or if they talk about ultra sophisticated investment vehicles, what exactly does that mean? Well, we would answer those questions. We can't answer everything in one presentation, but either through Q&A sessions or through other videos, you will gradually begin to see what they do differently and why they get the results they get. So these people are largely not aware of these systems, do not understand how they work, are unlikely to participate in them, and therefore they have very little likelihood of entering that top 0.5%, much less the top 0.1%. Moreover, those at the very top have no incentive whatsoever for revealing or changing the rules. So he's saying he is not optimistic that things are going to get better. Anyway, enough of that, and let's go back to Fort McMurray, or Fort McMoney, now Fort McWorry. There was this article that came to the Financial Times a while back. Okay, this was June 16, 2015. And I'll just go to some sections of the article. It says, as the oil sands flourished, the Fort McMurray region lured workers from across Canada, earning the nickname Fort McMoney, which I think now is more like Fort McWorry. By 2012, average household income in that area was nearly 190,000 Canadian dollars, more than twice the Canadian average. House prices trebled as the population doubled. Wow. Then came the collapse. In a very short time, our world has changed, and changed dramatically. Now, Suncor Energy plans to replace 800 dump truck drivers with automated trucks at its oil sands mines, saving about $200,000 per employee. What would have been a salary to the dump truck driver, about $200,000 per annum, will now be saved, because it will become profit for the company, because they'll get an automated truck that will drive itself. Now, oil workers accuse company executives of exaggerating the bust to pressure labor. Even though they say there's a downturn, it doesn't exist. They're still making money. Oh, they're making lots of money, says Don Campbell, a welder who works on CNOOC's Long Lake Oil Sands project. Well, it doesn't matter what the workers say, that's what management is going to do. There was also this article in the Financial Post. It says how Canada's oil sands are paving the way for driverless trucks and the threat of big layoffs. And maybe now we're talking about those driving this kind of trucks. These are very large trucks, 400-ton trucks, take specialized skills and experience to drive it. And that's why those drivers are very well paid, some of them making up to $200,000 per annum. But the lesson in it for everybody else listening to this is that any job that pays you well has in it the seeds of its disappearance, because somebody else is going to sit down and say, why should we pay somebody $200,000 to do this? Can we write an algorithm? Can we get a robot or somebody else to do it cheaper? And we say specifically that every day somebody wakes up trying to take your job via automation or outsourcing or privatization. If you have a good job, somebody is gunning for it. If you have pension benefit, somebody is gunning for it. Well, will they get it? We can't say. But a good rule of the thumb is to prepare for the worst, and then whatever happens, you're good. So, anyway, here it talks about how the giant trucks are capable of getting around without a driver, increasingly. And right now, there are thousands of operators who drive these trucks. So I said, indeed, self-driving trucks are already in use at many operations in the province, as in Alberta, although they are still operated by drivers while the companies test whether the systems can work in northern Alberta's variable climates. So, and it says that is about to change. In fact, Suncor confirmed this week, and this was written June 8th, 2015. So Suncor has confirmed in June 2015 that it has entered into a 5-year agreement with Komatsu, the Japanese manufacturer of these machines, to purchase new heavy haulers for its mining operations. All the new trucks will be autonomous ready, meaning they are capable of operating without a driver, Suncor spokesperson Snesetal said. And it's not fantasy. Suncor's chief financial officer told investors at a conference in New York the company is working to replace its fleet of heavy haulers with automated trucks by the end of the decade. That will take 800 people off our site. At an average salary of $200,000 per person, you can see the savings we're going to get from an operations perspective. And of course, you can also see the devastation that is coming to those 800 families. A wider push to automate various functions in the energy industry is already underway. So it's not only the truck drivers. For example, Canada's largest drillers are using high-tech drilling rigs capable of moving autonomously between oil wells throughout North America. So all the hands that used to drive or haul or set up, again, they're going to lose their jobs. Nor is the use of autonomous trucks likely confined to Suncor, although companies are reluctant to confirm plans, but you can be sure all of them are working on it. So, just another reason why someone in Fort McMurray might want to really take this Fractional Billionaire Project serious. And very quickly, we need to look at two other things that you may want to think about. One is adjustments to your tax bill. Now, but before we address that, let's look very quickly at this document. It's called Random Tax Bills. And we have samples of tax bills in British Columbia, Canada, Ontario, Canada. But let's zoom in on Alberta, Canada for a minute and focus on that. So let's look at this document, Tax Bills for Selected Alberta Income Points and Income Types. This was based on the 2011 or 2012 tax tables. but you'll be able to see the picture of what it means. So what this table shows is that what you make may not even matter as much as how you make the money. How you make your money matters in terms of what you pay in taxes. So for someone making $50,000 per annum, if you make it by salary or wages or whatever, or self-employment income, what accountants will call earned income, the one you have to go out and work every day for, in that year, you would have paid almost 9,000 as combined federal and provincial taxes, income tax only. We're not talking of payroll taxes like CPP and EI, or if it's in the US, Medicare and Social Security. That, would add another easily almost close to the same amount as in payroll taxes as well. But anyway, someone who made their money, who made their money through something called return of capital would have paid zero. If you made it via capital gains, it will have been just under 3,000. If it was dividends from a Canadian-controlled private corporation, it will have been a little over 3,000. And if it was dividends from a public corporation, it will have been zero. Mind you, to get 50,000 in dividends from a public corporation, your stock portfolio of public companies will be worth anywhere from 1 million to 1.5 million. So that person is not poor by any standards, but he would have paid zero. And you who went out to work every day, you would have paid 9,000. Again, you can look at the picture, for those making 100,000, the people who go to work for money pay the highest. Capital gains pay less than half of what those people are paying. Return of capital is usually zero. Dividends from a private company, well, a little over half of what those who go to work for money pay. And those who get dividends from public corporations pay less than 1/4 of what those people are paying in this instance. You can also look at the numbers for 150,000. It's the same picture. So how you make your money matters. And also whether you can turn your money into offshore money or local money. A billionaire can make $100 million, but through a complex set of laws and exemptions from laws, the $100 million can become profits offshore, on which his tax bill is zero until such a time as he brings the money back, which is going to be never, because he can borrow that same money from himself at 0.1% per annum and reinvest it here. Officially, he hasn't brought it back, so he doesn't owe the tax. Now, we can debate till kingdom come the fairness of this. I don't make any case that it is fair, but the question is, it's not fair, so what are you going to do for yourself and your family? The Fractional Billionaire Project is a way out by which you can also participate in some of these benefits until the system becomes fair or something changes in the system. And finally, let's look at tax bills for high-income people in Alberta. Many of them may also live in Fort McMurray anyway. Because of the oil price collapse, even before the elections, whichever way, whoever won, whether the Progressive Conservatives of Jim Prentice or the NDP under Richard Notley, tax bills were going to go up. But now that the NDP has won, this is what it's going to come down to in terms of additional tax bills. So for someone making $125,000, currently they should be paying about $34,000 as income tax, combined provincial and federal, and they don't have to pay anything additional. But by the time you get to $150,000, you are paying extra $500 this year. If you get to $175,000, you are paying extra $1,250. If you're earning $200,000, you're paying an extra $2,000. So some of those truck drivers who are about to lose their jobs at Suncor, in the meantime, while they're still making their $200,000, they get to pay an extra $2,000 per year as income tax. So again, that's just another reason why you want to seriously consider the Fractional Billionaire Project. And what does it cost you to sign up as of today? Less than $25 US. So, but it won't remain like that forever, and it's not, the door will not even remain open forever. how you sign up, when you sign up, will determine what you pay. If you sign up now that you can get in for about 25 US dollars or less, you are better off than someone who may come in the next 1, 2, 3 months who may be paying 200 or 500 or 1,000. And in fact, at some stage, the draw is just going to be closed. And there will be no more new participants. So, as they say, a word is enough for the wise. And if you have any questions, go to our YouTube channel. The channel is named MCWS Presentations. You would find there a video on how to join the Fractional Billionaire Project. So, if you have any questions about how to join, you would be able to have your questions answered. And if you still have any questions after watching the video, there's an email address to which you can send your questions, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. So that's the channel, MCWS Presentations. You click on it, you see all the videos. All those videos shed some more light on what this is about. And there's that one, how to join. So hopefully you will be one of the wise people for whom a word will be enough. But whichever way, whatever you decide, we wish you all the best. Thanks for listening.